Hello, can you guys hear me? Okay. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Almost afternoon. Very happy to see all of you here today. Yeah, so maybe before starting, I'll do a quick introduction to some of our speakers. Can you guys hear me? Are you? Oh, yeah. Okay. If it could be a bit louder, that would be great. Please, thanks. Yeah, but I'll start first. I'll start from the other side. So introducing Joseph, who is the investment partner of Bits Bytes, which is China's first food tech accelerator VC. So they focus specifically on food and good. So anything related to food that has a positive impact. And in just a short 18 months, Bits Bytes has about 10 companies in your portfolio already. So that's a great accomplishment. Jocelyn is the Group CEO of JR Group, one of the largest food companies in Singapore, and she has led it through multiple transformations. So JR Group started as... Can I speak now? Well, yeah, okay. JR Group started as a sauce company, Xinhua Di. Those of you who've been in Singapore long enough might know it. But they've evolved to also include different kinds of F&B concepts, as well as vending machines and ready-to-eat meals to provide consumers with nourishment 24/7. And Ricky here is the founder of Life3 Biotech. So Life3 Biotech makes Vigo, which is a plant-based chicken analog. So it tastes like chicken, but no animals die in the process of making it. I tried it 2 years ago. I'm sure it's much better now. But it was already very delicious 2 years ago, and I really enjoyed the fact that nobody had to die for me to eat that. And congratulations on your MOU signing earlier today as well. Yeah. So maybe I'll quickly introduce myself. So I'm a director at Antler. Antler is a startup generator where we basically look at talent from all over the world who have the potential to be founders. And what we do is we bring them together and help them form great startups and companies. So we do this in Singapore and in Stockholm. And so if you know anybody who is interested in becoming a founder and starting a great company in January, please feel free to hit me up after this. So maybe I'll move on to food, which is on everybody's minds, and it's almost lunchtime. Let's just start with a quick, drawing the big picture, right? You guys are very experienced in the food space and have seen a wide range of technologies and possibilities. But what are some of the biggest challenges that you see when it comes to feeding 9.6 billion people by 2030? The mic's in front of you, so you can start anywhere. Joseph, do you want to go first?
Sure. So I think there is definitely a series of challenges in the food supply chain. I think it's systematic. Coming from Shanghai, based in China, Bits Bytes is aiming to solve all the systematic challenges along the food supply chain, starting from the agriculture side, the farmland, and to manufacturing, production, all the way to logistic and the last mile, and also the consumer education. So we are investing in early stage startups who share our mission, that we wanted to solve the systematic challenges in let's just say food access, food safety, food waste, nutrition, and consumer mindfulness. That are the main investment focuses of Bits Bytes. And just for your information, we invest in early stage companies from C stage all the way to Series A, with around ticket size $250K US dollar to $500K.
Okay, what are some of the biggest challenges that you see in China, for example?
So they coexist. So sometimes we have food access issues, but meanwhile we have food waste issues, and food safety has always been there. And I think nutrition is also a pain point that we really wanted to solve. China has just surpassed the United States to become the #1 obese country in the world.
#1 obese country?
Yes, so especially in the younger generations. So that's a sad truth. So for example, in that regard, we are fighting for excess sugar. And for the food safety, that's we're looking for when you talk about 9.7 billion people to feed by 2050, and I think that naturally raised about the alternative proteins that we need to solve. So that's why we have plant-based proteins, and we're also looking at insect-based proteins. And from a more technology perspective, sometimes the synthetic biology is also one potential solutions. So we have portfolios in plant-based, insect, and also synthetic biologies.
Okay, so I want to ask you later on about the technology, and especially when you talk about plant-based, I think Ricky is sort of an expert in that. So if you don't mind, Jocelyn, I'll skip you for a while. Can you talk about some of the biggest challenges that you face and why that you see in the food system and why you started your company?
Right. Okay. So, but allow me to thank you first on you mentioned about the MOU signing. I think that is the very important mark of our journey as a startup because that answers the theme and the topic today of sustainability. So we signed the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding with AVA, the CEO himself, because a startup partnering a government as well as a school to build a farm. So we are looking at addressing the problem at where it is. I look at this entire system, all right, not in piecemeal, but in totality. So if we talk about feeding 9.6, close to 10 billion people by 2050, we always ask ourselves, is it a demand or is it a supply issue? So I will always look at first the supply. There is a declining farmland, as we all know. Urbanization sprawl has been taken place rapidly over the last 10 years because every of our generation, ourselves, our future generation, the kids, all will want to work in an urban city. So what happens to the farmland? You're left with the aging population. That's number one. And number two, there is also the lack of technology know-how. So that's why for us, partnering AVA, there's also a transfer of knowledge into how can we go into precision agriculture. So if we are able to have that empowerment, the knowledge, then we hope to increase the supply to meet the rise in the demand. So that's how we are trying to solve the problem as an ecosystem. Of course, if I were to delve deeper into specifically plant-based protein, we are in the meat value chain, right? Further downstream from upstream. Upstream is farming. So we will develop, biotechnology and food technology to convert the plants into textured like meat product. Well, I hate to use the word meat because, if you ask a vegetarian, which some of my friends today have kindly joined us, you know that we do not want to be eating something called meat or mock something, right? So we want to tell people that what plant-based can bring to you is nutrition, is also the flavor, as well as the texture. So that is where I think the technology should be able to play up to the expectation of consumers. So taste is very, very important. That's how I see it. Technology is secondary. And then, of course, the health comes along. It's like, by the way, and you are saving the environment. So this is where we believe that we can solve, this entire sector's problem through technology.
Okay, so finding more efficient ways to produce protein rather than your conventional animal farming methods, which are actually very land intensive and with a very high carbon output as well. So I feel like we're moving from upstream all the way downstream, where the food actually comes to the consumer. So Jocelyn, what about you? What has motivated some of the new technologies that you've brought into your business, and what are some of the challenges you're trying to solve?
Yeah, I think I saw a lot of overseas guests here, so I briefly introduce my company. We are a ready meals manufacturer since 2001. The reason why we went into ready meals is because we see that there is a lot of food wastages, especially when you go, you enjoy a nice buffet, let's say in a nice hotel or restaurant, there's always a lot of food being thrown away, or, sometimes in the restaurant where they over prepare things, or, even at home, sometimes we do not know when our children go hungry, because for me, I have 3 sons, and they always go hungry. Sometimes at night they will say, "Mom, I'm hungry," and What they eat is maybe potato chips or instant noodle. So we see that there is an issue about convenience, about fast-paced society, about the nutrition foods that go and feed these bodies. Because we all know that if the nutrients don't go into the body, actually the body is damaged. So we are very concerned about this malnourishment, about this convenience space. That's why in 2001 we started manufacturing ready meals. So when we first started, we actually went to all the food services like the hotels, restaurant, fast food chain, and we give them the ready meals that are produced in our factories that is cooked frozen. So imagine when the customer order or when they place an order, they can just heat up whatever they need and then serve. So at home is the same. Because one of our problem here is that we do not know what is the perceived demand of the customer. We do not know when they need to eat. And then accessibility is a problem, affordability is another problem. So over here at our factory, we actually produces ready meals that are as fresh as newly cooked. Because we cook them and using technology, we blast freeze it so that you can keep the nutrients in the box itself. And then in 2008, we actually started hot food vending machines where we put all the ready meals into the vending machines. As and when, when they feel hungry or they go to the vending machine, they can just pay and then, press a pack of maybe spaghetti or butter chicken or lasagna from the vending machines. So we started that. It's a great success over the last 2 years because the food costs are just increasing, not because of the food, but because manpower are increasing, rental are increasing. So there's a lot of wastages. There's a lot of wasted footprint because now people are really getting very busy and they want to stay in front of their computers. They want to just order a meal that will be sent to them. So we are looking at all these area where we can really feed the people better. So over at our factory, we actually work with a lot of dietitians, nutritionists to come up with balanced meals for all the individuals. We even go into specialized meals for the elderly, for the young, for the low GI. So these are areas that we feel that in order to feed the next generation well, we need to look at what are the areas that is missing, where is the missing gap. So JR actually started the ready meals production and also the vending business recent years, and I feel that is a sustainable model because then all the food wastages can be cut down. Although we are not there to grow the protein or whatever, but we are trying our best to cut down as much waste as we can by being more sustainable and more scalable.
Okay, thanks very much, Jocelyn. I have some questions for your nutrition, but we can get back to that later on. There's some questions up on Slido. Keep them coming and keep voting.
Can I take the one on ready meals means unhealthy?
Sure.
I must address that. Yeah, because you see, ready meals, like what we do is actually they are all produced by chef, and at the same time, is actually screened and scanned through by our dietitian and nutritionist. And before even we send out, it actually sent to the lab for testing of all the different area of concerns, like all your food safety and also whether the protein is still intact and all that. In fact, for the ready meals, they are more healthier than many other foods. In fact, one of the report in 2017 by US Washington, they say that ready meals, in fact, are better than the fresh food. Yeah.
Especially if the fresh food is McDonald's, which is the only 24-hour option across the road from my office at 10 p.m. at night. Yeah. So, I think that's where there's a lot of technology and science that goes into the products that we get off the shelf now that a lot of consumers are not really aware of and probably need to understand a lot more.
Yes. And I think I'm very thankful to an event like Slush, where it's also a good way to tell our customers, how the whole thing works. So it has to be an ecosystem. It has to be everybody coming together and have that trust for ready meals as well as for the vending solutions.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing. I would love to throw the top question now to Joseph. As somebody who has looked at multiple technologies in the food space, what is your take on lab cultured meat?
So we think technology is the key enabler, maybe to disrupt the very conventional food supply chain. And lab meat is very often addressed because sometimes people say it's sci-fi. But we think it's really a deep tech, and it's really a potential solution for the meat alternatives. One of our portfolios based in Israel, actually they're in Jerusalem. We visited them this March, and they were growing chicken meat. So they take the stem cell out of the chicken and then grow it with the plant-based serum. And they recycle the plant-based serum, so it's very sustainable. We had this luxury to smell what it smells like for a chicken fat. That's our first prototype. So it's lunchtime. I just wanted to make you guys hungry. So it smells like yakitori. What people concerns right now is all about the cost. And before our investment, the company is called Future Meat Technologies, FMT. They were able to bring down the cost per kg from 10,000 US dollar to 800. And we're after our investment, it's actually a co-investment with Tyson Venture, one of the largest chicken supplier in the world, and also the Chicago-based S2G Ventures. We are targeting to bring down the cost from $800 to $8 per kg. So that would be close to the organic chicken price.
How long is that going to take?
So by 2020, that's our goal, and we wanted to launch it in Asia.
Okay.
But of course, we have to face. I see there the people mentioning about the regulations.
Yeah.
So it's novel ingredients, something that right now there is no clear regulations on that. But I believe there is a lot of communications need to be done. So we wanted to talk to, we wanted to open our mind and talk to the regulators because we believe that in China it's a very we need this kind of sustainable technology solutions simply because that. We have 20% of the populations in the world, but we only have 7% of the arable land. But with that technology keep advancing, that we don't need to worry too much about arable land. From a very scientific perspective, all we need is to provide the scientists the fermentation silos so that they can ferment and produce at scale the next generation protein. It's very safe, it's clean, and it smells good, so it tastes perfect. I just wanted to echo what Ricky was sharing, that taste is the number one thing. So Bits and Bytes, so we are China's first food tech venture capital, but we always advise all the founders or all the applicants that we don't want to see a product or a technology that we see the technology overpowers or overweights food. So when it comes down to food, it must be taste. There is very basic golden rules. It's the taste, it's the convenience, it's the price for value. So we focus on these very simple things, but with technology advancements.
Yeah, and I think leading on to that, I mean, this is something we've heard in other events that we both attended around food, right? Where at the end of the day is what is going to appeal to the consumer. They're probably not going to care that much about the technology around it. But related to that and related to one of the questions, I wanted to sort of also make sure Ricky gets a chance to answer something where two parts of it, right? One is, do Asians really care about sustainability? Does the Asian market actually care about it? And the other one is, how do you think about your product in relation to sustainability or health or some of the other concerns that are facing the food system?
Right. Okay. So maybe just to pull everyone back, to have a macro view of things. Just to touch on briefly, like what Joseph was talking about on lab meat. If the topic today we are trying to address, which is to feed close to 10 billion people by 2050, so all this alternative technology and product able to meet that, I would say a critical challenge in due time. It will never be a one-stop or what I call a blanket policy solution. It will still have to work hand in hand with the traditional, meat producer processors. Okay, I would say technology is just able to furnish and complement, and then bring these alternative ideas to the market. And there's a lot of education. I think that was the point that Jocelyn was touching on, which the question was raised. There's a lot of education process, and that takes time. So if you're asking us whether all this can ramp up fast enough to address this need, then I will say that it will take time. Okay, a lot of good money has been pouring into this area. So for sure, there is this interest as well as this potential. Otherwise, the investors will not be making such deals, huge deals actually. So the other part is coming back to Asia. I would say that Asians as a whole are a little bit more pragmatic. I think a lot of our international friends here today may or may not understand fully what Asians represent. Now, we are a melting pot, right? So you have multiple, ethnicities, nationalities in, for example, places like Singapore, okay? Or if you go to Malaysia, Thailand, Indonesia, you will see everyone from all walks of life and every parts of the world. So what does that represent? Asia is very diversified, yet we are also as a whole. So we have some commonalities, yet differences. And for us to have that bridge in terms of new products to solve this food scarcity is not easy. So I think one of the key things that we always want to address is whether the education part, the marketing effort is efficient, it gets to the market timely. So for example, if you talk about plant-based protein, this whole concept, has it been new in Asia? Answer wasn't. It wasn't the case. Let me bring you back to 5,000 years ago, where China developed something called tofu, beancurd, you call that. That is plant-based protein for you, ladies and gentlemen, right? So it is not a new concept, but over at the western part of the world, they are able to have a very good education, marketing strategy to bring this back into a trend, and to tell you to please switch, between diets to a more sustainable and healthier one. So to answer that very quickly is that it is always there. So now, what is the next challenge moving forward, the next 5-10 years? I will say that we are getting more health conscious. If you can see in the world, Singapore is the first to actually have our Prime Minister talk about, I want to control your diet. I want to know what you eat and you drink every day because I don't want you to get into diabetes later on in life. So we are leading this promotion of good public health. So definitely we are working very hard towards that, okay? And then number two, we have a lot of regulatory policies, a lot of infrastructure. I think in China is doing the same. President Xi Jinping is saying that we want to cut down meat consumption, especially pork. Okay, because I also went to China for my exchange and internship program, so I know that has been a pipeline for a long time. So if you have all the big countries, right? Singapore is small, right? We can only be leading this front in innovation, but we need the partners, the neighbors to support this movement. So if you have China on one end, you have India on the other end, we are all trying to say, can we reach for this sustainable diet? I think yes, in the next 5 to 10 years. And we need the political will, we need the investor support, and we need more startups as well as enterprises like Jocelyn, who have been established for a long time, to come in and adopt new products and solutions. Then we will be able to see this whole market transform. Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying that that sustainability may not be the marketing pitch in Asia, but it is fundamentally very health-driven. And at the end of the day, all the solutions that are coming up are going to address this issue of producing enough food with the right nutritional capabilities, but potentially with a different angle. Okay.
Because in Asia, it's always that you tell me about environment, right? It's like, sorry, is there an issue? It's not in my backyard. Sorry to say this, right? Because usually we will see more of the lobbyists as well as NGOs over at the western part of the world who really champion for this cause and belief. In Asia, we are, I still use the word pragmatic, so we always say, does it concern my health? If it is, I'm going to take a real change, right, to make that difference. then by the way, oh, I'm also, helping the environment. I think that is the initial traction. But if we move into the future generation, the millennials, then there will be a different, mindset, and they will adopt this differently.
I mean, I definitely hope so. I think it's a bit of a cliche that the older generation might not appreciate that, but I think there's always a bit of an education and then a transformation period, right? So we don't have that much time, but I want to get everybody's thoughts on, if for Jocelyn and Ricky, working in the food space and working with consumers and with the mission that has been driving you, if you could leave everybody in the audience with a last message or one thing to think about, what would that be? And then Joseph, I want to get your thoughts specifically as an investor. Talking to startups out there, what is the one thing that you wish they would build or that they would address as a startup? Yeah. So let's start with you again.
Right. One message. One, yeah? Okay. I mean, my friends always know I have many messages to say, but I will say that the time has come, the opportunity is there to really rethink how we can disrupt this sector, how we can change the system. Well, I do not want to use the word fix the broken chain in the system because, it's always about evolution rather than pure revolution. So it's about just coming in to plug the gaps, okay? So I think we all need to have that new approach to things. I will still use, the same thing, different. It's a many helping hands approach, right? So a startup play their role. The enterprises who are more established play their role and partner together with, institution, with policy makers and regulatory. We should be able to address these dire needs, And of course, I urge personally for more people to be interested to take on this role because it's not easy. For example, if you say to farm things, because that's where things grow. Just now I mentioned at the MOU, we are not asking people to become urban farmers, but become agro-food technologies. So that will have the new capabilities and we will have new output as well.
Okay. Jocelyn?
One word. What is the problem? What is the problem statement today? I think we talk about technology, we talk about urban farming, we talk about AI, we talk about, plant-based protein and all that. I think the problem statement then comes very handy because if we can find the solution to the problem, I think that is more key. So as an enterprise, we are actually constantly looking out for that needs and for that problem statement. Thank you.
A quick one. So I want to see the entrepreneurs be really bold, be creative, and bring some really disruptive solutions to the industry. But that doesn't mean you have to start everything from scratch. Try to combine the disruptive technologies with very conventional wisdoms. So for example, the tofu one is a good example. Actually, it's a very, very good story, but try to combine your disruptive technology with such very conventional wisdoms. That might be a very feasible solutions. We're running out of time, but I see a lot of relevant questions. I'm very happy to stay longer and chat with you guys.
Okay, so just to summarize, think about the problem that you want to go in and solve. Think about the resources that you have, not just in terms of the latest technology, but conventional wisdom and habits and everything you already know. And if you want to catch Joseph and Ricky and Jocelyn for any other questions, they will be around Slush for the next few minutes. So thank you very much, everybody.